It's just how it goes.
Yes, that's your party here.
We're not gendering or anything.
Top 10 reasons why I have the most awesome purse ever.
Right? It is rather stylish. Right. Thanks for having me.
It's Kate Spade. This is not sponsored.
Goju's going to be happy about that shout out.
So, tell me about the origins of Watchmojo. How did you get started?
Sure. So Watchmojo is a good example of an overnight 10-year success. We actually launched 10 years ago. How did we get started? It's pretty simple. I was running sales and a lot of editorial, and I was a spokesperson at a men's online magazine called Ash Karbasfrooshan. And I was there at Ash Karbasfrooshan from 2000 to 2005. I joined to do PR, and then I was like, let me look at your books. And I was like, wait, there's a mistake. We have 0 in sales. So I was like, let's put PR on the shelf, let's start doing some ad sales. And so I did ad sales. I wrote 10 articles in a 2-week production cycle. Most of them were pen names. I was the resident interviewer, and it was a great ride. 2005, IGN Entertainment, which is a video game publisher, bought us. And then News Corp bought IGN a few months later, so that was great. It was a great experience. And initially I wanted to stay within the IGN News Corp family. But, you know, it was a big company, and the right thing to do was to fold my functions within the mothership. And so they were like, okay, if you leave and you go to a competitor, we'll be really, really upset. I was like, no, I'm 27. I think it's the right age to start a company. I was like, Hugh Hefner started Playboy at 27. You know, I was big on symbolism and whatnot. So I was like, I want to start a company. I'm like, okay, no problem. So I had a non-competition agreement stating that I couldn't do a men's online magazine, and I was like, yeah, not a problem, been there, done that. I'm going to do just, you know, I obviously was into video, but I was mainly into storytelling. Video is the natural evolution of storytelling. So I was like, I'm going to do an online video thing. And purposely, it was very horizontal. We covered everything early on. We did how-tos. So the way I look at content is, so you have categories: automotive, business, finance, fashion, music, etc., etc. Then you have styles, and styles could be posted green screen, voiceover, and you know, Q&A format. And then you have format, which could be how-tos, it could be top 10 lists, it could be interviews, etc., or yeah, guides, etc., etc. So for many reasons, just being someone that had a wide array of interests, who couldn't focus really on one thing or didn't want to pick one thing, because you got to be number 1 or number 2 in that space, we were very horizontal. And so we did a bit of everything. And that actually played very well for many reasons. But eventually we had to narrow our focus, and we can maybe dive into the reasons why. So around 2012, 6 years into the business, I kind of said, look, there's not really that much money in online video, and yes, it's changing the world and all that stuff, but we had racked up $1 million in accumulated losses, which for a Montreal business...
$1 million, people. You spent $1 million on your content?
Yeah.
No.
So that's the thing, like, you really have to be passionate about content and what you're doing and believe in it. And I did not have $1 million, by the way, lying around. I had had some success, so I had a few $100,000s lying around from, as a venture capitalist in the city says, former glory, but it wasn't $1 million. So, you know, but we had a team, and you know, we always want to do the right thing. I go, you know, what's the value? Like, what's not the value, but what's like the pyramid of stakeholders? So I always go, without your audience, there's no business. So audience is number 1. 2 is your team. So we didn't want to lay anybody off, so we just kept going and going and going. So 2012, I just kind of was sitting in Madison Square Park, coming out of another meeting with some media company or investors who kind of passed or didn't get what we were doing or wanted us to do something that I really didn't believe in or didn't want to do. And I just sat there, and one of my advisors and friends was like so-and-so wants to do so-and-so. They're like, you're not going to want to do that. I'm like, no, I don't. So I was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I have a plan. They didn't really have a plan, but I was kind of...
A lot of us don't on YouTube.
Yeah, I was figuring it out. And again, people on the outside were like, wow, Watchmojo is so much success. You guys are providing your videos to Yahoo, to MSN, you're on the Benchmark Gazette site. Therefore, you must be raking it in. But it was still a tough solution to crack. But I just one day said, you know what, if we're going to do this, then I have to be okay with not making any money for many more years. And I have to be okay with, you know, the strategy given the team that we have. It's like, you know, you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want to have, so to speak. And I just said, you know, there's an opening in the factual space, which I like a lot. And I go, Watchmojo's editorial, we do a lot of lists today, but it's kind of like take the objective nature of encyclopedias, which I know doesn't sound sexy, it'll get sexier, but then you take then the editorial tone of the consumer magazine, which is going out of business, but at the time it still reference magazines, and then package the programming like cable. So it's like our music countdowns will look and feel like VH1. Our travel countdowns will look and feel like Travel Channel. And then we kind of just said, boom, that's what we could be really good at, that's what we love. We'll do that for free, so to speak. So we start to just put our heads down and do these top 10 factual lists that we had always done, but like buried amongst top 10 fashion, not top 10, like a how-to beauty tip, a travel guide to, Madrid, an interview with Ozzy Osbourne. And it was like weird, on YouTube in particular, as you guys all know, you're all experts or developing expertise on the YouTube front. A subscriber's like, why would I subscribe to you if on Monday I'm going to get a lasagna, on Tuesday I'm going to get sushi, on Wednesday I'm going to get, a vegan quinoa salad, assuming that is a thing. So we understood, so we understood why, we had all this success elsewhere, but on YouTube by 2012, I don't think we had 10,000 subscribers. But then we hit 100,000 subscribers on January 1st, 1 million subscribers October 30th, 2013, 5 million by the end of 2014, 10 million by the end of 2015, and we hit 12 million last night.
Yeah, so that's where I wanted to take, congratulations. So he has the famous diamond YouTube play button. Did you see PewDiePie's video where he's like angry that YouTube still hasn't sent him his diamond play button, and he's demanding 44 diamond play buttons from YouTube?
Is that true? They haven't sent one?
No!
That's how revolutions start, my friend. You send PewDiePie play buttons.
You give people
or maybe the shipping, it's so heavy. I'm guessing the shipping to Sweden, or he's in London. The shipping
There's no excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
Money maker, man. So that's what I wanted to take people back to, is that you were not immediately successful. It took you from 2008 until 2012 till you really took off, and it was only because you narrowed your focus.
That's one reason. So look, success is relative, fluid, and subjective, right? If you're going to look at your neighbor, you're probably going to always be bitter and like, why does my neighbor have a bigger dog, or sexier car, or whatever? You can't live like that. But I won't lie, it was hard as an entrepreneur, as a human being with like emotions and feelings and like normal emotions you go through. Like, you're very positive and you always try to be like glasses half full, and you encourage others and you congratulate others. But it wasn't even like the YouTube thing that was more of a stinging thing that wasn't growing, because we didn't really bet on, we as consumers were huge YouTube viewers, but it was more like, it was more that I was trying to build a business. I wasn't trying to just be like, I'm a vlogger, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I was more into like, I want to build a big business, a company, something that will stand the test of time, et cetera, et cetera. And, the reality is venture capitalists were kind of like intrigued by content and definitely interested by video, but they're not really fans of content. They're content averse. So they would all be interested because they're like, you're one of the few guys who is creative, but who can read a P&L, that's a profit and loss statement. So it's exciting, we want to talk to you. But when push came to shove, their definition of content was more YouTube, a platform to upload content. And now fast forward, their definition of content is like Netflix. Okay, sure, there's kind of like this weird, so it was more, that was the hard part, where it boils down to perseverance and persistence and determination. And like, look, it's not good to focus prematurely on the wrong thing, and it's not good once you figure things out not to focus on that and be like, okay, everything else is noise. I used to think we were focusing on online video from 2006 to about 2012, but that's relative. Focus and everything else is very relative. So we decided to focus on something that we felt we had a comparative advantage and we were passionate about. It wasn't just focusing. If I tomorrow decide to focus on like men's hairstyle tips, there's a problem in that formula. It's not going to work.
And what is the specific problem in that formula?
Hair, two comments.
I got it. Okay.
That's what
the authenticity.
Well, that's the authenticity. And we talk about the evolution of storytelling. Having written so many articles and always being into like the kind of factual space, it's not very extreme. It's weird to say in front of an audience of people. Like, anybody could write and research an article about the challenges of being a black woman in Louisiana in 1910. It's a lot of research, but you could put the pieces together that it was not a good time to be a black woman in Louisiana in 1910. But you can't do a video blog. You can't vlog about that. If you start talking about that, people are like, am I watching SNL? What do you know about this? You're some dude in Canada. You know what I mean? So with video, it's such a different kind of like challenge to convey. Like obviously it's easier than like an image in some ways, but it's actually harder to nail an image, whereas with video, it's kind of a longer sequence. And if you really want to go deep into storytelling, nothing compares to an article. And that's a mistake that a lot of people made early on. They would basically be doing like, they would basically be doing something that should have been in an article format in video, whereas we were really good. We nailed what should be a video. And it's funny, ironically, our first videos were vlogs. It was someone sitting on a couch talking about their experience going to Chicago. And then after a while, I was like, ugh, who cares what Leslie says about her trip to Chicago? Then I was like, you know what, let's contact tourism boards, and let's get them to send us footage. And they did. And I was like, well, I remember the first time we had the Scandinavian countries send us footage of their ice hotels, and I think it was ice. I don't even know what they sent us. I was like walking on water. I was like, that's the evolution. That's like cable on the internet. Boom, it's going to be huge. And it was just people like, wow, it was like, to me, it was like this wild discovery. But that's what people like. When we would have talks with Yahoo, and like all those companies at one point or another wanted to buy us or invest in us. I don't know what invest us means, but they wanted to invest in us. And then there was always some external reasons why it didn't happen. MSNBC was going to buy us, MSN and Microsoft got a divorce. Yahoo was going to invest in us for use content for their portal, and Yahoo's a shit show, so that never happened. So many other companies, but it was all, they were like, you guys have figured out the right formula. It was always about balance. We weren't interested in being the company that produced the most. We weren't interested in being the company that produced one video that people came and sat down and were like, wow, it was always about balance. It was the right quantity, the right quality, the right frequency. And what played in our favor early on was the variety. Going up to like, if you remember them, MySpace. But when MySpace got acquired by News Corp, yes, that's how old we are. But when MySpace was acquired by News Corporation, Rupert Murdoch was like, we're going to kill YouTube. And I was like, good luck, okay? So we had a conversation with them, and we were the only ones, not even BBC and all the others, that were getting guaranteed revenue. The only reason was because we had all this variety. So that was something that we had to kind of like
accept. Down.
Well, if we wanted to be successful on YouTube, because we were basically packaging the programming under a consumer-facing brand, Watchmojo, but nobody would wake up in the morning and be like, man, I can't wait to jump out of bed, like turn on my laptop, before the iPhone even almost, maybe around. And they were like, nobody was going to go to Watchmojo to see our newest video, but if you were searching, like, I want to make fondue today, you would stumble on a video on how to make fondue. And then if tomorrow you're going to Miami, you're like, let me see travel video to South Beach. Oh, Watchmojo video. So video professionals were like, man, Watchmojo, those guys, they know what they're doing. But like, I would go to conferences and people would come up to me and they're like, I read your blogs about the industry and my company's looking to license videos with such fans. But nobody ever came up to me and was like, I'm a Watchmojo fan. Like, I'm a human being that goes and watches your videos. And I mean, you gotta be honest with yourself as a, I wasn't meant to be funny, by the way. No, it is funny. Isn't it laughing at you, not laughing with me? But it was kind of like, and you have to, it's like changing a jet engine in your flight. You know you gotta change that engine, but you're like, what the hell? What am I gonna do to this? And eventually I was just like, screw it. I'm fighting really hard not to swear, so when I say screw it, you know there's another word I was gonna say. But eventually we made that switch, it worked, and today people are like, oh, you guys are like, we are the biggest, I'll just talk that channel, we are a big channel. I still think nobody knows us. I was at a conference last week, last week in New York, and I was talking to some dude at Facebook, so he was like, let's Watchmojo, and I was telling him what it was. He was like, oh, that's fascinating. He wasn't in our demo. Some other guy was like looking at my name tag. He's like, oh. And I was like, okay, this guy's gonna kiss me, or he's a Watchmojo fan. And he was like, I'm such a fan. He's like some investment banker, like late 20s, early 30s. He's like, I watch about 10 videos per day for Watchmojo. And it's like, when you get that, you still think you're the unknown startup, scrappy, hustling company that nobody knows. But you're like, well, wait a second, there are 12 million subscribers, and there's probably another 20 million who watch either begrudgingly or they watch but they don't subscribe. These people exist out there. Like, they are people that are your fans. And it's cool because also we're not a personality-driven, ironically, despite the fact that we started off as like bloggers. I like that. I like that anonymity. I like that I could, if I'm at an airport, tell the, person something, not being recorded. And so there are good things about it, but it's kind of the business I wanted to build, and we built it.
Why do you think
10 years?
10 years for top 10 lists, right? And you're 10 million subscribers.
12 now, please.
Sorry. Sorry. Why do you think top 10 lists work so well? What is it about them?
Okay, I like anecdotes, analogies, and all that, so I'm going to give you this little explanation. people sometimes come into my office and like a colleague or someone, they're like, oh my god, this site's ripping us off, they're doing top 10 lists. I'm like, calm the fuck down. Nobody's copying us. Before us, Dave Letterman, Moses, the Ten Commandments. I'm like, you can't get, that's true. I was like, you can't get that, you can't take your head, and this applies to a lot of personalities that become successful, and more power to you. You can't get that vain and like egotistical and self-centered and shove your head that far up your own ass to think that like in our case, we invented top 10s and we have some freaking copyright or, you know, it doesn't work like that. So for us, it was common sense. When I was at Marinopolis ages ago, 95, so 38, you know, just connect the dots. So when I was at Marinopolis and the teacher was like, pick any, in psychology, was like, pick any project, do whatever you want in any format. Essay, whatever. I was like, I did a top 10 reasons why this psychology class was the greatest class, and number one was, I'm doing a top 10 list. Oh, and the topic was humor. So I'm doing a top 10 list on humor in a class, and I'm probably gonna ace it. And you know, I did get a high grade. So I was always into lists. And I like love reading articles. I never had the attention span to read books. And you could see that that's where things were going. People don't have the attention span to read books, let alone long articles. And if you could condense things for people, but not get into like the bullshit clickbaity things. Some people do actually accuse us, and I always go like, what's the definition? Look, there's always people that love you, hate you. What I love about my job is even the biggest Watchmojo fans are the ones that keep us honest if we F up. Or if we do something to disappoint them, which happens when you have so many viewers. But I always go like, you know, look, at the end of the day, if we say it's top 10 explosion scenes, to someone that's clickbait because it's, ooh, explosions, violence is bad. But we're telling you what it is. It's not like this person went somewhere and you'll never believe it. I hate that kind of clickbait where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not clicking on that. But so we are like super explanatory in what we do. But people have always liked this. Now with us, what others tell me, they're like, what's good is that it starts at 10, there's a payoff, you guys rank it, we'll do top 10 evil dictators of all time. And people are like, how could you? How could you do that? And I'm like, look, if we have to, this is in a very light way, but if we have to fool the audience to care about something more than sex, drugs, violence, video games, if they are going to get into history and military and find out why some evil dudes did some evil things, because we got to present it in a top 10 list and rank them, and actually say, how does Stalin rank in terms of evilness versus Hitler? I will do that, because I like history. I love 20th century history. I like ancient history. So people just like that. They like the fact that it's condensed. You know, we also, so we went through the evolution where we did a lot of like how-tos, a lot of guides, overviews to things. Then we went through our biography phase, where we did a biography of everyone. The difference between biographies and top 10 lists is, despite what the critics say, you'll never run out of top 10 lists. But with the bios, you're like, okay, we've done Beyonce, we've done Lady Gaga. But when you start doing like Jeanette, who's like your neighbor down the street, you know, it's time. It's time. Like you're not in the C and D list celebrities. You're kind of going deep into, you know, the superstar level.
The Ash bio.
The Ash bio. Yeah, if you see a biography of Ash Karbasfrooshan, that's when you're like, man, you guys are having ideas. So, top 10 list was just something that we felt, if you may not like Beyonce, but you'll sit through a top 10 Beyonce songs. Because it's like an introduction to Beyonce. You're like, what the hell? Why do people care about this gal? And then you're like, okay, interesting. But like, how many people would sit through a Beyonce biography? People who like Beyonce or people who are biography nuts? So it's kind of like also just, it was a natural evolution. And I had thought about going hardcore into top 10s, but I was like, you know, the easy way to really build a passionate consumer base is to execute on your top 10 strategy. But the easiest way to piss off a hell of a lot of people is to like misfire on top 10s. You know, like if you do a top 10 list on something and you exclude a major thing, goodbye credibility. So when people come up to me and they're like, we're gonna, like, half joking, companies that looked at buying or partnering with Watchmojo and who didn't, they're always like, after the fact, they're like, I believe she has something. After the fact, they're always like, oh my god, we're gonna get into the top 10 business and like, crush Watchmojo. I'm like, do it, because you'll see how hard it is. And you'll see how one top 10 list, when I say it takes 100 man, women, people hours, maybe each top 10 list doesn't take 100 hours. But if I add up all of the employees that touch on something, the full-timers, the freelancers, the people who review it, fact check, proofread, reverse it, send it back, because it's like, oh, we said this video game was gonna, like, top 10 best athletes who should become actors, meaning they are not yet. 3 weeks later, LeBron James is starring in a porno. We're like, damn, it's an action now, technically. So we have to redo the list. So there's so much detail that goes into it. But then when you come out, it's like YouTube. You guys know this. There's always like a vocal minority that will complain about.
Okay, so I want
I
you
still love
to
those people, by the way. Bonus one.
your haters are your biggest fans.
Yeah, I mean they're part of look, this is you can't be a hypocrite. You can't love YouTube for all of the great things about it, but be like, I really wish people didn't bash me. I'm gonna turn off comments. We'll turn off comments good. Let's see how that pans out.
Not so well. So now I want to take it back to what's your biggest success tip for someone who's an aspiring YouTuber or a business person / artist such as yourself?
My favorite quote, not because it's sexy, and my favorite advice, it does go back down to persistence, or tenacity, or determination. Those are more or less the same thing. President Calvin Coolidge, whom I would not be able to pick if you showed me him in 4 clowns. I mean, I don't know what he looks like, but he has this great quote that there's a lot of like very intelligent bums. Well, I'm paraphrasing, by the way. There's a lot of intelligent bums. There's a lot of wealthy, degenerates. But if you look at who really is successful, it's all about persistence. And that's the bottom line. There's nobody, even the people who like at 15 are like prodigies, well guess what? When you were 5 eating your boogers, they were like playing the violin. When you were out playing, throwing rocks at birds, they were like whatever, doing something not like that. So the point is, everything takes time. It's like, and that also explains...
Top 10 birds that Ash threw stones at.
Did you read my biography? There was one in
Okay.
So it's all persistence, and that applies to athletes, whether you get injured or you get drafted high, it doesn't matter. I mean, look, there's a lot of other things, like, look, if you're gonna, we have more and more advertisers that come to us and want to work with us, and we're very selective. We get like 100 emails, we delete 99, and then the ones that survive. We don't need advertisers, but we realize it's part of the ecosystem. But I'm getting to a point, and a lot of you guys, I presume, are more YouTube personalities than guys building a company and all that. Look, their number one complaint is most of you are, not you, what it represents, scoping. Their main thing is, these guys have big heads, they're very vain, they're not fun to work with, they're not modest, there's no humility. I'm not saying that. I really don't, because I meet a lot of vloggers and YouTubers, and I talk to them in these events, and they seem like very nice, down-to-earth people. And trust me, it's like if you play soccer, you gotta go out on the field thinking I'm gonna kill you, not literally, and I'm gonna win. But you still have to have humility. You still need to be modest enough. You still have to be a decent human being. Nobody wants to work with assholes. I already have more money. Even when I was poor and insolvent and running a money-losing company, I still felt that all the money I needed in the world. But I just go, is this somebody that I want to work with? So if you want one advice geared to you guys who are trying to build up your brands online, just be decent human beings, and that'll go far further than likes, shares, tweets, or whatever. That's my honest advice. But the general advice to the world is just persistence. That's what it boils down to. Nobody gets success easily. If it was easy, everybody else would do it. And for every one PewDiePie, there's a billion losers who couldn't make it. And for every one Michelle Phan, there's like a gazillion others who kind of didn't crack and had to go get a traditional job. So it's persistence.
Yeah, and I think refining your concepts, knowing who you are, focusing.
Well, yeah, boys.
Yeah.
So in 2008, 9, 10, I practically lived in New York for a while, and so especially in 2011 and 12, I was in New York 25 times each year. I felt American Airlines, 4532 was my private jet, and it was not. The thing that a lot of people told me, like Shane Smith from Vice or Troy Young, who now runs Hearst magazines, was, Ash, you seem like a smart person, which I fooled them, but they were like, we don't get why you're so broad. So it's true that in content, you have to be either extremely global and you cover everything, like a CNN type, or you have to be extremely niche and focused. And I think YouTube is more a place for niche vertical. People want to know what to expect, so you have to focus and have your voice in all that.
Is that also true of Facebook and Instagram?
Well, Facebook and Instagram are very different beasts, right? I think anybody that goes to us, for example, we have 12 million subscribers on YouTube, 300 million views per month, 1.7 billion minutes of watch time per month on Watchmojo alone, that's substantial. That's much like, oh, he knows this, I'm like, okay, dude, those are big numbers. I don't care about Facebook in the same way, because Facebook, look, Facebook video will not go away. Facebook video will remain something. It won't be like Facebook credits that you never hear about anymore. But Facebook video could also be like 5 years ago, you saw a picture of little Johnny who's turning 3 as a picture, and now you're going to see a video of Johnny falling on his face, and you share that with your uncle and aunt. So I think as media creators, if you're producing informational or entertaining content, to rush onto Facebook because you hear it's the future, it's a different thing. So it might be that you produce certain videos on YouTube, but then you just use Facebook as a promotional tool or whatever to engage. So for us, look, we're talking to Facebook now about many, many wonderful things. But I don't really, I mean, look, obviously you have to believe that YouTube's not going to go away. And that is like a macro systematic across the board. And you diversify, and part of the reasons why we're diversifying is that's why we launched Watchmojo. It was to serve a whole other audience. Male, female, lesbian, straight, gay, just that may not like Top 10 Ozzy Osbourne and actually wants Top 10 Taylor Swift. It's a different audience, it's a different demo. Yes, we're packaging it under Miss Mojo, but it's kind of like, there's guys that watch that, but whereas Watchmojo is 80-20 men, Miss Mojo after a few months is 80-20 female. Like, it wasn't us gendering, it was society. That's just the way it is. We're also diversifying into like Watchmojo Espanol, Watchmojo Francais, which maybe it's going to be a fairly different editorial, and we may have more personalities on Watchmojo Francais than we would on the core Watchmojo. Because the core Watchmojo is what it is. It's a top 10 list channel with VO, B-roll, boom, objective, and there's some personality, but we purposely don't want too much personality because it needs to be an objective list and not just you hate the new Taylor Swift album, so Katy Perry is on top. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different beast. And Instagram, same thing. I mean, I think Instagram and I would say more Snapchat are all doing very interesting things. And as creators, you have to be aware of them. But you also don't want to just follow like the people jumping off a bridge, because you have to bear in mind, I've seen every fad in the last 10 years, and 99 out of 100 things are fads. And persistence is a problem when you're a big publicly traded company. If in a year or two, Facebook's like, you know what, we enabled sound, and now everybody is blocking video on Facebook, they just don't care. But Facebook video became this big thing because we kind of tricked the system and made it autoplay and sound off. Well, you know what, Mark? I believe we have 2 minutes left. You know, so the point is you just have to be careful.
So did you always know that you were going to succeed? Because you said you felt like you were even a success when you were $1 million in the hole and you had to get yourself out of that hole.
So let's go back to 2 things I said. Success is fluid, subjective, and relative, and I said it's good to be humble. So personally, I am a very, very ambitious, driven, confident person, but like any normal person, you also have not doubts, but you know you have to work hard. You know it just doesn't come to you. And like I told you before when the mics weren't working, I did have one specific massive crash and burn moment when in college I went for a presentation and I was partying the night before, didn't do anything, show up. I got thrown off because one of the judges was a student that was competing for what I was going for. So that was like, that's a conflict of interest. That threw me off, but still, I should have kept my cool. So I was just basically blabbing away instead of saying, you know this, you gotta go back, regroup, and just present it. I was like blurting out information, and it was frankly wrong information. And so what I learned after that is I said, wow, I made a bigger deal than this. What am I trying to say? Even when Watchmojo was not successful, I was still like, look, knock on wood, like you live in Montreal, you run a company, you work with people you love, you have the greatest wife on the planet in the history of all that stuff. So I was like, okay, so it's taking longer, and again, like not your neighbor, your proverbial neighbor is raising $52 million. That guy's probably now unemployed, but that doesn't matter. And I was like, this other guy is getting 57 million views on YouTube, and I was like, good for them, good. Sure, they have a lot of issues and whatnot. So I always feel like I'm going to win. Now, what does that mean? It means you pick the right team, you pass the puck when you got it, when you get it, you put it in the net, or you pass it back. Like, that's what I mean. It's not like me. It's more, I have a great team, I think I'm a great leader, I think I could, like, you know, come watch me play soccer and you'll get what I mean. Like, I'm fair, honest, never cheat, but I'm gonna win. 9 times out of 10. So I did always feel that, but look, there were moments. I remember like coming back from many trips where I was like, I just went down to New York and I got turned down by like 4 VCs and 3 companies were like, what are you talking about, type of thing. But I also knew that these VCs had a bunch of crappy companies in their portfolios and they were like kind of just trying to be all bravado, and those media companies are now out of business, but you're still just say, okay, tenacity, persistence, let's go back, that's a wrap. So I was like, so it's weird, you still have to stay positive, and you know, final point, this is the final point. it's good to just be in a happy place, but you also, if you are going to be going out there as an entrepreneur, as a creator, you should never be content. You should be happy. But like if you put out a great album, your next album should be better. If you publish a great book, your next one should put that to shame. Your videos, you might make mistakes. So long as overall the trend's going the right way, you're ahead of 99.9% of the world who have far bigger issues, whether it's health or other matters.
Well, thank you so much for your winning advice, Ash. Good luck on your next 10 million subscribers. You get 22 million subscribers. What's the future like for you before we leave the stage, and then there will be French panels?
So we are actually going back to my thought, which was to get into scripted programming, sitcoms, dramas, feature films 10 years ago, and I felt the odds of success would not be as good as starting a company. It took me a while, but so now we're actually launching, its working title is Watchmojo Studios, could be Watchmojo Plus, whatever, doing that kind of stuff. It's more of a long-term horizon, but like I said, Watchmojo's going well, needed another challenge, so we will be doing that.
Wonderful.